Insane in the membrane.
So there's no, like I always say this, there's no big introduction, we just get into it.
Yeah, that's it.
Chat away, just chat away. I've been hearing good things about you, man.
Well, it's gone well, like quite maybe quicker than I expected it to.
It's all right.
Just generally. So
yeah, nice.
just trying to work hard as best I can and not piss anyone off.
Good luck with that.
I know.
You'd be surprised how easy it is.
I know, for flip's sakes.
I know, people are a little bit on edge, it seems. I don't know. I love being a comic, but now and again I'm like, fucking hell, chill out, mate.
Oh, people just love drama, don't they?
Yeah.
It's all a bit much.
How long you been doing it?
4 years, maybe coming up to 4.5, 5, something like that. I had a weird start though. I started MCing before I did any sets.
Well, that's how I did it. I started. That's what got me into a lot of places, because most people
need MCs.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you can MC, anyone listening to this, if you're starting out in comedy, MC, because that'll get you in places.
Yeah.
You know?
It is handy. Sometimes it feels strange because you don't want to be in a little box, because some promoters only ever see you as an MC then if you want to run some stuff, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and to be honest, it will organically morph into something that you'll get to a point where bookers will go, oh, do you want to do a set or do you want to MC? They'll ask you.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at the minute. They kind of go, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah, either or. It's nice to have that option.
So that's nice. Yeah. I think that's later on.
It helps you find it feels like it helps you find your voice, because when you're drifting between the crowd stuff and the material, it's hard to have too much of a persona on, because the crowd stuff is so in the moment, and then if you have to make a big jump to suddenly do your material in some kind of heightened version that you weren't doing when you were doing the crowd work, audiences just freak out.
Well, you'd be surprised what has happened. Again, your material will morph as well. So if you're quite conversational as an MC, you can then, what will happen is you'll be able to kind of slide into your material. So it makes it's like you're just chatting. And
which is the best stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that. I love doing it. I love making people laugh. It's fucking great. That's all I want to do, just make people laugh. I got into this and I was like, oh, you can make money making people laugh. Yeah, all right then. But then a few years in, people are like, well, what are you going to do now? You go, well, I thought this was it. They go, no.
That is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all this, and people see me as quite a driven person, but I'm just trying to carve out space to be very, very chilled out, if that makes sense. So I just want to push everyone out of my way, and then I just go, okay, I can just chill out and make people laugh now, and I have enough money to crack on with.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Belfast, in South Belfast, in quite a nice little suburb.
Yeah, okay. Because I obviously only know of Belfast for when I was growing up.
Yes, which isn't nice.
No. To the point it was like, I remember going to Ireland when I was 10, and we were driving around, and my dad was a civil servant, and even he said, he was like, we're not going. We went as far as Enniskillen. We didn't go.
Up the west.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I missed so much of it. Like I was born in '96, so I know so little about any negative stuff. Like there was the odd bomb scare and the odd thing of don't wear that football top there, or don't take off your tie and blazer if you're going to this area of Belfast so people don't know you or whatever. But that it's just part of it, and it didn't feel like, it's not even a modicum of what my parents lived through or any of that stuff. So, and also I was quite grew up quite middle class, whereas both my parents were very working class. So it's a completely different experience on both of those levels as well.
Have they spoken to you about it?
Well, no, there's quite a disconnect, and I've read a lot of articles about this, in that a lot of English people, if I asked you what your parents did when they were growing up, you probably have a few stories about oh, my dad did this, whatever. We don't really have that, and there's a little bit, and our parents often don't talk to us about it just to almost protect our generation from they're getting caught up in it, because if you explain what happened, then there's obviously why were they doing that, and then you can get caught up in the kind of tribalism of it. So I think a lot of people of my parents' generation just didn't really talk about it that much, for a very well-intentioned reason of protecting us from it. But then there's a lot of statistics of like more people have died of suicide since the Troubles than ever died during the conflict.
Really?
And my generation in Northern Ireland has a huge spike in suicide and mental health problems. And some people think it's because of that kind of disconnect with our parents' generation. There's always an elephant in the room, and even as a kid, you know when something's being unsaid. But again, it's well intentioned, so it's like,
Yeah.
I'd rather I was me than them.
You sound like you got your head screwed on. You sound
Yeah,
like,
I feel I have a lot of fucking, because this is like a mental healthy thing, is it? Is this mental health?
Yeah, but it's more. See, this thing. A lot of people. When I say to people say, "Oh, you got your podcast," and I say, "Yeah, do you want to come on?" And they go, and they're a bit reticent to come on because they go, "Oh, it's mental health," and I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. And I'm like, "Well, it's not really a therapy session.
No.
You can be as honest or you can be as open as you want to be. It's more like two guys having a chat in the pub."
Yes, well, I think it's very important to be unsentimental about these things, because you can really add a lot of gravitas to mental health problems, and I don't think that helps.
No.
Like I see people doing an hour-long show about destigmatizing mental health, and there's too much taboo, and I'm like, well, I feel like doing an hour-long show probably plays into that more than it pushes back against it, because it's like, why is it worth doing an hour-long show about if it's just another like health problem? But I've always had fucking terrible mental health problems. When I was very, very young, I was agoraphobic. I've never worked out how to pronounce it.
I always thought it was agoraphobic.
Agoraphobic. I was too scared to ask.
Everyone was out.
Yeah. But I had really, really severe anxiety when I was a kid, like missed months of schools. I was in like therapy in the hospital when I was like 9 and 10 years old, the whole way through. Very, very scary stuff, very difficult stuff. And it's weird when like I don't really get anxious with stage stuff and performing. But I had that growing up, so I do find it interesting, like people going on their own mental health journeys, and I hear them talk about, I do this for anxiety. And because I've been dealing with it and learning strategies since I was 9, I kind of have a bit of like a veteran view of it. I see people going, you need to do this for your mental health. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work. I promise that doesn't work.
But it's just different things for different people, isn't it?
For sure.
You know,
For sure.
as you know. And so what caused that then? Do you know?
I don't massively know. I've had some therapists like kind of have a pop at what it might have been. Like it started when even when I first went to primary school, I was kicking and screaming to go to primary school, but I'm sure that's a lot of kids. But I went away on like a residential music course, and had to come home and was like, I kept having these like anxiety attacks and panic attacks when I was away from my parents. And then it happened on like scout camp as well, and I was always like, I couldn't be away from family or the house for very long. And there's all sorts of different reasons why that might be, but I think it's just something that I have and something I have to kind of like deal with and reckon with, and quite bad separation anxiety, occasionally social anxiety. Really bad. I get like hallucinations when I get really bad anxiety. Yeah, so I'll be in bed and it'll be a crowded room. The room will become crowded with people like pointing and laughing and talking about me, and
you can actually see that.
Yeah. So I would get them, and obviously freak out because when you're lying in bed in your pajamas, you don't want like a crowd of people like pointing and laughing at you.
So is that the ultimate stress stream? Yeah,
and people have said to me like, "Oh, do you think that's why you do stand up? Because then it's just a crowd of people laughing, but like you're a bit more in charge of it." And it could be, I don't know. I don't like to. I think a lot of people look for the reasons why they are who they are, but I don't want to view myself as just a series of like defense mechanisms. I enjoy stand-up comedy, and that's why I do it, and I don't need any more reason than that.
No.
To be getting on with it. But yeah, I would have those. And then at its worst, and this still happens every so often, it's like I find it funny because it's so ridiculous. I get so anxious, it goes beyond agoraphobia. It goes to I can't open my eyes. because
can't
I'm
even
so
see out. You don't
I'm
look
so
out.
scared of everything that the only place I can exist is in my own head,
Shit, man.
which is I find so funny. Like, it's so mad to be that scared.
I suppose on the other side of it, when you after the episode, you kind of like, that was a fucking
Oh yeah,
hell.
it's not like looking back. You're like, why? Like, why? And I just don't know why. But it's just one of these things that flares up every so often.
But it's funny. The brain is such it's an incredible bit of kit,
Oh yeah,
but it does fuck you up. Like
For sure.
Like there's every time I noticed, every time I did, like, if I gave money to a homeless person, something bad would happen directly afterwards. And it's probably coincidence. I remember I've given money to people and then my phone got nicked an hour later. I've had another one where I gave money to someone, I turned around and my phone got knocked out of my hand and went under the train.
Oh,
and I
no.
couldn't get it till the next day. I've had also, I've given money to someone and then it's always something bad has happened, to the point when about just before all the lockdowns, I was in Pret and I bought a cup of tea and something else, and they gave me a hot wrap. They went, "Oh, we're giving these away. Do you want this?" And I went, "Oh, thanks for that." And anyway, I walked out and there was a guy sitting outside in the rain asking for money. And I went, "Mate, do you want this? They've just given me this. Do you want this wrap?" And he went, "Oh, that's amazing, thanks." And then the whole world got locked down. And in my head, I was like, did I cause this? And of course he didn't.
that's so funny. I love if your reaction got more and more like you created such an aversion in your head that you just like kick homeless people now just in case.
Just trying to reverse it. Or maybe I do shit things.
I remember there was once I went to quite a lot of the matches in the Euros just gone. The ones at Wembley anyway, because I'm half Italian, so I was fucking loving it. So I went to Italy, Austria in the last 16. I went to Italy, Spain in the semi-final, and I went to Italy, England in the final, which was mad. Italy, Spain I went to, and that was maybe some of the happiest I've ever been. That penalty shootout, I was at the end in the corner where the penalty shootout was, and it was just, I bawled my eyes out for like 20 minutes in the stadium afterwards, which is quite funny because I don't speak any Italian, but I had loads of like Italian men coming up to me being like, "Scabity," and I'm like,
Just making noises that sound like it.
yeah, but literally that's me in the crowd of Italy football matches. I'm just going, "Hey!" But then I was on my way home from that match and I'd had a few pints, but like, do you know when you're that like adrenaline up and just so like ecstatic, you can't really get drunk because like you're just buzzing a bit.
Yeah.
So I was getting the bus home, and it takes ages to get home from Wembley when it's been like a full stadium as well. So I was
it's
going into town and
murders.
then back out of town. And I was just getting all the messages coming in of people saying, "Oh well," because this was when English people were still like happy for me,
Right, yeah.
because it was the semi-final. So I was getting all these, and I was just replying to them, and I was waiting at the last bus stop to get a 10-minute bus to my house, and this was the last bit of the journey, and I was just stood there, and I was stood at the bus stop holding my phone, and for a split second I go, "Is that a moped?" And then they just grabbed my phone out of my hand and disappeared and I like ran after them, but there was no way I was getting them, and I was just like, so I think something of going from so ecstatic to just like absolutely devastated, and I'd never had that happen before, and it's something about it feels so disrespectful because like there's something honourable in pickpocketing. Do you know what I mean?
The skill that it
sneaky.
takes to, yeah.
You gotta respect it. But for someone to just have the disrespect to like basically look you in the eye and be like, "That's mine now," is so bad. So I was like in floods of tears in the street. I was pretty drunk, and I like sprinted home instead of getting the bus. And I remember running through before I started sprinting home, I screamed, "Why can't I just have a good day? Something terrible always has to happen." And then while sprinting home, I was screaming in the street, "All I've ever done is try to be a good person."
Oh, mate. It just gets to you like that.
It's so bad, man.
I was talking before on another episode with Mike Cox, and I just said sometimes I'll be in the kitchen. I just go, fuck!
Yeah.
I'm doing my fucking best.
I remember once in uni, my housemate came in and he went, "Oh, yo, this much for the water bill." And I just turned around and went, "It never fucking stops, does it?"
We've just paid this.
Money keeps going out. It doesn't come in. What's going on?
Yeah, it does. It just gets to you. It's funny you mentioned, because we've never really talked about agoraphobia on here before.
Oh, really?
No. And I mean, I don't know much about it. I only know from maybe films and things like that, or things I've read, where it's a case of they go to leave the house, open the front door, and it's all hustle and bustle, and they can't step over the step and out. So they shut the door. I mean, is it like that?
I don't know, because mine,
or your experience,
very much comes from like I think a separation anxiety. So it was quite linked to like my mum particularly, and that's no fucking slight on my dad. It's just what it happened to be like, and it's so I don't know, like, because what's interesting about being like in so much like mental health treatment when you're that young is I don't really know anything about what I was necessarily diagnosed as, or what the conversations they were having with my mum and dad were versus what they were saying to me, like, because it was all like infantilized isn't the right word, but it was like codified for children to understand. So they would refer to it like, they were like, what does it feel like when you have a wobble? Because that was the terminology that we used. And looking back, like, definitely either a panic attack or anxiety attack, whatever way you want to phrase it, that's what a wobble was.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I have a weird perception of it, and I've had a notion, and I don't even know how I would go about it, and I've almost definitely missed the boat, to like see if I could access my medical records from that time to just see what was being written about me and what they were treating, or what they kind of thought it was. I only refer to it as agoraphobia because I was pretty much stuck in the house, like couldn't go to school, couldn't do anything, like for like chunks of time. And it was never like a year in the house. It was like a few, because I was always being pushed to go into school and try it for a couple of hours. And even if I was at school but just doing worksheets in a separate room to everybody else, so I was in like the office, like the waiting area of the principal's office, just doing worksheets rather than being part of the whole class. So mine always came from like I would feel physically ill, and it's what you were saying earlier about the brain being so fucking powerful that it's annoying. I get like a fever and like that hallucination stuff, and like it really becomes physical. Like I need to throw up and like start to feel very, very unwell. And I think that's partly because I think my brain worked out that did get you off school.
Right.
If you were ill. So my brain just like made whatever that, but through like sheer panic. So there's all that stuff. And it kind of flared up during the lockdown as well, because I'd spent such a long time unlearning all these irrational thoughts I had about going outside and about crowds of people and about like entering the world.
Yeah.
Being like, no, that's not rational. Like, it's all safe. It's all safe. It's all safe. And then the government were like, actually, you were right. And I was just like, oh no, everything's dangerous. I was right to be scared of crowds of people and going outside and doing this and doing that. So it all rolled back, and I there was a point in the pandemic I thought I was going to slip back into it, but
Really?
yeah, and I think I was close. I nearly passed out in my friend's garden with anxiety. Because his like sister had like a fake graduation because they like didn't get one, so they had a few people around in the garden, and it was the first time. All I would do is I would walk the dog in the park, and I refused to go to the shops or anything. I was like, I'll do more around the house. I moved back in with my parents. I'll do more around the house, but I'm not going to the shop. I can't do that. And yeah, so I went around to this like graduation thing, and then I ended up sat. They had like a little gazebo thing like on a table, and I was just sat with a friend kind of at the edge of the open edge of the gazebo. And then people kept arriving at the table and going, oh, can you shuffle down a chair? Can you shuffle down a chair? Can you shuffle down a chair? And then I ended up as far into the gazebo as you could be, with people all around the table right until me on both sides. And my vision was like tunneling and all this stuff. And it was actually at that point where, and I'm really glad that I did this. I on the car journey home from that, I said to my mum, "Can we do a comedy gig in our garden?" Because I found that really hard, and I think if I don't get back into this, I'll never do it again.
Yeah. So you did a gig.
Yeah, we did a whole. I only had like 4 months off. We did like a whole summer of. We did 7 gigs in my back garden to 30 people.
Brilliant.
It was unreal. We made a little mini documentary as well, if anyone wants to watch it or whatever. But it's like, yeah, that was really exciting, and it got me. I don't remember the first one. I was pretty much blacked out with blind panic. But I'm sure a lot of comedians resonated with that first gig back. You were like, can I still do this?
Yeah, I was standing there going, I don't remember any of my stuff. Just stood there
I did all new, man. I don't know why. I was like, let's do it. It's already scary.
Craziness. But when you're having the hallucinations, do you know that they're hallucinations? You go, oh, it's happening again. Or
but it's really scary.
Yeah.
And it was funny because it happens when I get like physically unwell as well. So if I have a fever, I remember the first time I had a fever, I texted my mum, I was like, oh, I've got a bit of fever. She rang my girlfriend and was like, just so you know, he might like swing for you in bed.
Oh, wow.
Because he'll like see you as some kind of fucking demon. Because because it would have like, and I just like have these mad hallucinations when I have like fevers, but then also when I have really bad anxiety. So like my girlfriend had to be like prepped on like self-defense for helping Vittorio when he's fucked up.
Got a bit of a crash helmet on.
Yeah, it's funny, man. So it is just, and they kind of fade in and out, and then sometimes it's like that mix between like when you have your eyes closed, you can see it, and then it's like, it's very, very strange and hard to describe. The hardest to describe one is just that, because it doesn't make any sense. So I don't try and make it make sense to people.
No.
Like that one where I get stuck in my head, like it is just, imagine the most scared you've ever been, but it's about nothing, and you know it's about nothing.
Wow.
But you still have all of the same feeling of it.
Jesus.
So it's weird.
Yeah, it must be. My God. It's funny because
Good. It's only 20 minutes into this podcast that I'm fucking.
This is how relaxed people get. They just go, everything just spills out. It's great. But this is why I love doing it, because it's a safe space for you to just go and talk about all these things, because someone listening, I guarantee someone listening would have experienced, if not exactly the same, something very similar. And just by hearing one person talk about it will just change their life.
I remember I met, I met somebody, there's another podcaster we talked about it. I don't know if you've ever seen the Mild High Club. It's Dean Coughlin, who's up in the Northwest. It's him and his girlfriend. Yeah. And his girlfriend would have been agoraphobic. And I remember when we met for the first time, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is great. Like, we're both mad.
But it's when, what amazes me, what I've learned from doing this is that we've all got something. Being a human being is such a fucked up thing. Yet we try and restrict ourselves to, or people around us they go, this is how you're supposed to live your life.
Yeah.
This is the framework that you're supposed to live in. And this is why we're all struggling, because we don't really fit into that framework.
Yeah.
We've all got different things going on, different chemicals reacting with the other one. And
this is what I think's weird about, people keep talking about like, oh, I'm neurodivergent, I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, who's the guy who's just like normal?
The psychopaths.
They're freaks, man.
They're the freaks, the ones that go, no, I'm fine.
I've never met a person who I couldn't diagnose with something.
It's true. Everyone's got something.
Yeah.
There's this weird feeling that everything is just, you're this or you're that or you're that. Yeah. Everyone's got a bit of this and a bit of that. And all depending on your mood and your blood sugar levels.
Oh, I like it, allowing myself to be different every single day.
Yeah.
Not having a fixed idea of who you're supposed to be.
I don't know anyone that's... The people that I do know that are kind of go, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And you go, well, you're a bit of a cunt.
I find that even with stage stuff, comedians go like, oh, I'm quite a low energy comedian. I don't think I'll do well at this gig. And I'm like, well, sometimes don't be.
Yeah, change, do something else.
You
Or
put
just-
a bit of, if a room needs more energy, like maybe just do that.
yeah, you're always expecting the audience to come to you rather than
Yeah, man.
you go to them.
Put a shift in for once. For once.
Roll your sleeves up, dickhead. There's a need as well at the moment. It feels everybody wants a thing. And
Takes the pressure off.
yeah, and you're like, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe you're just a bit. You're like we've all got a bit of something.
Yeah, I don't
it-
like to lean on it too much,
Oh.
like because I just think it's something I deal with, something that happens to me every so often. But some people have it worse. Some people don't have it quite as bad. Oh, everyone has different things, but it doesn't define me in any way.
No, this is it. We all have moments where we go, I can't face going out. I can't face. No, I'm not saying that's the same as agoraphobia, but
No, yeah, but it is that.
you have element. Yeah, you just kind of go, I can't face.
There has been a confusion between the emotion of anxiety and the diagnosis of anxiety. People go, oh, I've got anxiety about like this job interview I have. And I'm like, yeah, you should.
You're supposed to.
It's a job interview.
Yeah, it's your brain going. This is an unusual thing we're about
It's
to do.
important and
Yeah,
there's
it's just-
consequences and there's, yeah.
Exactly. There's a danger, so you got to be aware. Be aware. That's all that is.
Yeah.
'Cause anxiety is part of your alarm system. It's kind of going, all right, this is a weird situation we're going into. Let's just be aware. Let's just be careful. See where the dangers are.
Yeah.
But people want to get rid. They think that their life would be better if they just get rid of all that. And you're like, no.
You
need
don't
it.
want to. I've always, and I don't know anyone else's journey or experience with it. I've never done any of the medication stuff for mental health, and that's partly because for whatever reason I don't think my mum was into it. We tried literally everything else, and I have done every therapy
Oh, yeah.
that you could imagine. I've done art therapy where I went in and they handed me a piece of clay and were like, make your feelings, and I was like, what are
was
you
that?
talking about?
Just roll into a ball and throw it at him.
I remember once they gave me like a big, because they would basically give me a different medium every week for art, or art therapy, and they gave me a big like A2 bit of paper and like some markers. And it was around that time, I don't know if you had this, when being good at bubble writing meant that you were like the coolest person in the class.
Yeah, we had that at school. Yeah.
So all I did was practice bubble writing by writing every person in my class's name in bubble writing. And the art therapist was like, and what does this mean? And it was like, I'm just practicing bubble writing.
I just want to be cool.
Yeah. But I've done like crystals and stuff. Like I've laid there with different crystals on all my chakras and had a woman waving crystals all over me and all that
Did you
shit.
feel anything?
No. And I've done, she tried like hypnosis tapes and all that stuff. I hated them. I don't like them. They kind of freak me out a bit. But all sorts of mad stuff. But for whatever reason, I just never had that kind of chemical intervention with medication. And look, I don't know what works fine. It's all different for different people. But I think partly because of the lack of funding, it's much easier for a doctor in the NHS to go take this, it'll help. Whereas I think that they even know that it's not the ideal solution, but I don't think the NHS is at this point where it's offering the ideal solution for many things.
No. Well, this is
unfortunately.
it. No, this is it. They're not. Well, it's like a band-aid, isn't it? They're just putting They're just putting a band-aid over a massively open wound, and it's not adequate enough. And that is it. It's easier just to just bung people on sertraline or whatever it is, rather than dealing with the real issues, which is society in general.
And that happens with physical stuff. I've got mates who are doctors who are telling me about they get the same people coming in with chest infections week after week after week, and they'll give them a course of antibiotics, and that's hundreds of pounds of antibiotics. And my mate who's a doctor is like, if we just paid their heating bill, their house wouldn't be damp and they wouldn't have chest infections.
There you go. Yeah.
So it costs the government more money to spend less money, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. And it's that if you start taking care of people, the rest will fall into place.
Yeah.
But they're so hell bent on. Well, they just can't bring themselves to help people. It seems. They're
It's
like,
strange because they just need to look slightly further down the line. Like, look, if these people are impoverished and they don't have enough food, then they're going to eat cheaper food, which tends to be fucking the worst for you. And if they're working 3 jobs, they don't have time to cook, so they're just getting fucking terrible fried pigeoned from around the corner, and then they'll be unwell, and then they'll have to go into hospitals, and then the NHS is crippled by all that stuff, and it's just having slightly more foresight, no matter what your political leanings are. Like, I think that's the way to do it. I think people like get into a real phase of just calling Tories pricks, but I don't think that actually, like, pitch it in a way they care about money. So you need to pitch it in a way that's to do with money. To be like, hey, do you want to save money? Give people universal basic income. It doesn't seem intuitive, but here's the breakdowns of the economics of how it works. Yeah. And I think that's a better way to do it.
But this is it, and it'll only go back into the system anyway.
Oh yeah,
so, you know, so you're not. It's not like you're giving money and we're all gonna sit on it like you lot do, like you fucking. Like,
smog and
smog sliding around on gold coins. But this is it. Like you say, it's so short-sighted. They don't take care of people.
No.
And if they did, things would just improve vastly. Yeah. But they're just so petrified of.
But they know that they can play on people having a shit time by blaming it on somebody else.
Yeah. Which is them. It just means they stay in power longer, isn't it? It's like, oh God! But this. I was on antidepressants for a bit, very briefly.
How did you find it?
It just made me feel nothing. And I mean nothing.
Yeah, I don't want
across the board, and I didn't want that. I remember I've said it before. I was at a festival, and I was on antidepressants, and then I took some illegal substances, and it didn't.
Nice.
Yeah, what a fucking mixture. But it didn't. It just. I was just completely level. I didn't go up. I didn't go down. I was ended up walking around like, I don't know, wherever it was, Creamfields, talking about mortgages. It was
like
just
that thing where, what is it, in Silence of the Lambs, you know, when he eats that guy's nose and they're like, his heart rate didn't change. That's like, that's what psychos are like. It's what you said, like these, like, everyone's so scared to have an up or a down, and that's where the stigma lies. Like, just you gotta feel something. I know that it like some people's ups and downs are unmanageable, and that's another thing. But I don't know. But I don't know. I don't have any personal experience about that stuff. But I've always tried to find a way to not.
But there's almost. I've seen a few people that they love having meds, and they love talking about meds. And I want to say to them, like, come on, this can't be your life.
Yeah,
there must be something. But they're like, oh, I've got these meds I'm trying, and I've got this, the meds for this and meds for that. And you go, but you're now obsessing about the meds you're on and what you've got, and that can't be your personality. There's too much. There's too many other.
And people,
there.
This is like mildly controversial, but I think people just don't like to be confronted with it. I know a lot of people, friends of mine, who will say that, oh no, I've tried everything else. Medication's the only thing that works for me, and a lot of the time they're lying.
Yeah.
Because they haven't tried everything else. And sometimes that's because they can't bring themselves to get out of bed and go for a run. And I'm not going to be one of those people that says, just go for a run. But I think from experiences that I've heard is the best experiences of people taking medication that I've heard is that they use the meds as a stepping stone. So they use the meds to get them to a point where they can get out of bed and they can start to take on some of those other more like lifestyle based adjustments that they can make to help with that stuff. Because people like to say that they've tried everything, but listen, some people have like foods that make them depressed. Like if you've got a certain kind of gluten intolerance, your gut can affect your mind so much. And I think, like, I just know them and know they haven't cut out different foods and tried different exercises and tried this and tried that. And I know that depression can get to a point where you can't try those things. And that's why I say, like, that stepping stone, I think that's where meds are very, very useful to get you to a point where you can try stuff that isn't just kind of medicating yourself the whole time. Yeah,
no, it's I know what you mean. That's a great point. Like taking them until you get to a certain point.
Yeah.
But the people go, oh, I'm on these now, and that's going to be it. I'll be sorted for life. You're like, well,
I remember once I was at an open mic. It was probably like, do you remember Funny Feckers?
Yeah.
Wes Dalton ran it, and it was where I did my first gig actually. So I have a lot of time for Wes.
Oh, Wes is great. I love Wes.
Yeah. And I remember It was a bringer, and so my girlfriend would come along as the bringer often to these early ones. God bless her.
Poor cow.
I know. And we were at this show, and we were upstairs, and we were stood. It was me, my girlfriend, and two comedians. And I won't name the comedians, but they were like kind of open mic comedians, right? And they were, while we were in the group conversation, they weren't really talking to us though. They were both just having an argument with each other about who was on more mental health medication. And my girlfriend grabbed my arm and went, you need to get better at this fast because I can't keep coming to these.
Oh man, that's the motivation you need.
Yeah, for sure, man.
It's true. I've been recently. I've seen gigs. I've been at gigs with comedians, and they're like opening 5 minutes. They're talking about all that they got. Well, I'm this and I'm that, and I've got this and I've got that, and blah blah blah. And you're like, all right, I get it, and it's not cool.
But who are you?
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that what you should be doing with your comedy, just tell the jokes, tell the stories, and from what you're saying, we'll work out all of these other things. You're giving it, like Jeff Innocent, I was with him the other night, and he teaches comedy, and he
Show,
said
don't tell.
Show, don't tell.
That's it.
And it's brilliant.
And it's hard. This is what people do.
Of course it is.
Showing, not telling is very fucking difficult.
Yeah.
But that's why it's good.
Yeah. And then people figure it out.
Yeah.
They're going to figure out what your politics are. They're going to figure out your sexuality. They're going to figure it all out from what you're saying. And audiences get a real buzz off of that puzzle, figuring that out.
Yeah.
Because they go, I've got the measure of this person now. I know what they're about. I've figured it out. And it makes them feel better.
Well, even in conversation, if you meet someone who's constantly declaring what they are, I'm like, yeah, like, you're probably just a dickhead. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I much prefer an authentic dickhead. Like, I've mates who are dickheads, but they can't be anything else because that's who they are.
Yeah.
And I prefer that to someone putting on some kind of performance for me. Because I'm like, I don't know who I'm talking to right now.
No.
And I said this to my girlfriend when we got together, and I think it's something I'm quite proud of like, I said, we both have to come in with, when we're like disagreeing on something, we both have to come in with 100% what we want. Don't pre-negotiate in your head before you enter the conversation, because then we're two fake people having an argument in between two real people. Because if I assume what you might want and then go in with that, then you're assuming what I might want, and then it's two people who don't exist compromising to each other's things. And I'm like, no, we both have to just be selfish dickheads when we start the conversation, and then we can get to what might actually work with the two dickheads.
But being honest with yourself and say, look, this is how I want, this is what I'm after, and then that's it. And it's been like that with my new missus. We're just really open about things. We do talk about everything. Yeah. But it means that we're not shouting at each other later on. It's like we kind of, when something happens, we talk about it straight away. We call them small dragons. Me and my girlfriend. Oh yeah. So there's a story, and people don't like him, and I think he's gone off the rails recently, but I used to find him quite helpful, and his name's Jordan Peterson. Yeah. He told this story once of there's like a little like kids book about a boy who has a tiny little dragon under his bed, and he went down to his mum and said, "Oh, there's a tiny dragon under my bed," and his mum goes, "Dragons don't exist. Go to your room." And he goes upstairs, and the dragon's a bit bigger than it was before. It's maybe the size of a dog now. He's like, oh, and he goes down the next day and he says, oh, that tiny dragon's like a wee bit bigger. It's kind of the size of a dog. His mum says, dragons don't exist. Go to bed. Goes back up. The dragon's like as big as the boy now. And the boy goes down the next day and goes, what? This dragon's fucking, it's bigger than me now. Mum goes, dragons don't exist. Go to bed, right? Goes upstairs. The dragon is filling his whole room. And he goes downstairs and goes, Mum, listen, this dragon's massive. And she goes, I told you, dragons don't exist. Go to bed. And then by this point, the dragon is filling the whole house. And the mum goes, oh, it's like getting in the way. She can't get out the door, can't do anything she's trying to do while she's trying to ignore this dragon existing. And she goes, oh, flip sakes, this dragon's really annoying me. And then the dragon just gets a little bit smaller. And
And she goes, oh, right. And so me and Izzy have my girlfriend, we have like a little thing where we go like, oh, this is just a tiny dragon before it turns into a big one.
Yeah.
It's a very helpful thing.
And I'd rather that, because I've lived in a house with the fucking dragon, the biggest dragon ever.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to make this smaller. And it's funny mentioning Jordan Peterson. Yes. Yeah, he's gone off the rails.
He's on a mad one.
Yeah.
Nobody should be tweeting that many times a day. He's like 30 times a day at the minute. You're like, bro, chill.
Yeah, take it down a few.
Like, he's a millionaire, man. And I'm like, why are you this wound up?
Yeah, relax, man. But it's like everything. There's some, if you quote anybody, people go, oh, you're obviously into him then, and so your view is this, and this, and then I can't talk to you anymore. You go, no, he's just, there's been a few things that he said over the years where I've gone, oh, that's pretty interesting.
That's helpful, yeah.
There you go, that's pretty cool. But I'm not, there's loads of people like that. You go, oh, that's all right. Oh, that's a bit much, but that's all right. And I think that's this need to be straight down the middle and not listen to, you can't listen to that person or that, someone with opposing views, you can't listen to them. And you go, I have to listen to them because then I know it strengthens my views.
Yeah, and it's a bizarre thing because people really want teams these days. Like, and I remember a comedian said to me recently, I mentioned a comedian who's like a mutual friend because they were doing that Comedy Unleashed, that free speech comedy night.
Yeah.
And this other comedian said, oh, I didn't realize they were on that side. And I went, whoa. Like, they are just doing a paid gig for money as a comedian. And I get that, like, I don't agree with everything that free speech thing does. I also don't agree with everything that, like, Quantum Leopard does. I think some of the stuff that they do is, like, on the other side of, like, you shouldn't joke about this. I mean, if anyone's seen my act, they know that it's, like, that's I'm not that kind of guy. Somebody messaged me on Instagram today and said, I've watched a lot of your stuff and I can't work out if you're a prick or not. I was like, perfect.
That's what you want.
Exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And people really want all these teams because they want you to align with everything. And there's a strange thing at the minute where it's like, oh, being left wing means you believe in this, and this. And I'm like, I thought left wing was a purely like economic thing that we were talking about. I thought we were just talking about kind of the broad sense of like spreading wealth more equally, but apparently it's about all these social issues as well. And then right wing means this, that, and the other. Right wing means you're anti-gay marriage, even though that's definitely not true of all right wing people. It's just like the same in the other direction. But people just want these teams, and it's gotten to this very strange point where, like, every so often I'll see an interesting guest is on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I'll be like, I'll have a listen to that. Often a comedian, because they're just talking shit or whatever, and I find that funny. And I'll be sat on the tube, and I'll take out my phone, and I'll, like, look around to see if anybody's looking, to see if I'm listening to the biggest podcast in the world. Like, how's that happened where it's the biggest podcast in the world and I'm like, oh, I hope nobody sees that I'm listening to this.
Yeah. They don't let you have they don't think that, because you're not listening to everybody on there, and there's a lot of things that Joe Rogan says and you go, well, I'm
not going to him for science advice.
No, not at all. But like you said, it's the odd guest. Like, you had Ted Nugent on there, and I just was aware of Ted Nugent's music when I was a kid. Yeah. And then I was like, and I knew that he was a little bit, it was, he's off on his own fucking, off on his own world. So I thought, oh, that'd be an interesting one. And I was listening to it, and it's really interesting. It's funny. Yeah. But you wouldn't. I'm not going, right, Ted Nugent for president. Let's follow him in the back. You're like, he's fucking mental.
He's mad.
Yeah.
Mad as a box of frogs.
Yeah, and you go, but that was an interesting thing I listened to.
Yeah.
And it means now I'm like, well, I don't believe what he says. I don't believe the same things. I
like listening to it. I used to do a thing where I would think of something that I believe about something, and then I would just type that into Google and then write the word debunked after it. And I would watch whatever YouTube video like disagreed with me most.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, I want to know what the other guys are saying.
Exactly. I want to know. I want to listen to everybody. It doesn't just because I've watched videos on Hitler, but that's only because I wanted to find out exactly what had gone on.
Oh, he got to be so cool.
It's Hugo Boss, wasn't it? We all know that. But I'm not watching them going, all right, let's get some ideas. Let's see how you're like, I want to watch one of the most evil people in the world to find out exactly what he did.
Because he's a person. because this is what people don't like. He's a person, and all the best things that people have ever done, I think we are all capable of. So we can all do a great amount of good in the world. But all the bad things that people are capable of, we are also capable of. So like, it's about reckoning with that, like your potential for badness as well as your potential for good. And I find that really interesting to look at and that's why people love these murder documentaries.
They love
like
them.
Really. But when it becomes about politics, it's different. Like, you have to go so evil to the point where it's like, obviously you're not going to murder anyone if you're watching all those documentaries. But I listened to a podcast with a guy who I disagree with, and it's like, well, you must be a bad bastard. And you're like, no.
Oh, if you're listening to him, you must have the same beliefs. And I don't have the same beliefs. I find it's entertaining listening to some of the people that they have on.
Yeah.
And then I come away from the podcast and I go, oh, okay. Well, he believes that and he believes that, but that's not what I believe in. Anyway, I go about my day being as decent as I can to everybody.
I get so stressed about this team stuff, though, man.
Yeah.
Like in comedy, particularly. Like, I really worry that the really like left wing or like woke, for want of a better word, I worry that they hate my stuff because some of it's a bit whatever, but I also think that the people on the right think I'm some fucking snowflake guy. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I don't know I thought we were just, like you said at the start, I thought we were just here to make people laugh.
Mate, I said it on Twitter the other day. I said, and I've asked comedians this in green rooms, I was just curious, should a comedian be political? Like, when it comes down to their comedy, should they be sort of left or right? Shouldn't they be kind of looking at the whole system and going, the whole thing is fucked. The whole thing is a joke. And then people come back to me and then someone said, oh, I'm a female comedian, an American female comedian. I have to be political because of what's going on. And I went, no, you don't get what I mean. I'm not talking about that. I mean, that's absolutely, we should all be standing up against that. But that's personally, but I'm talking about
on stage,
as a comedian, like the reason that South Park worked so well is because they mocked everything.
Yeah,
left, right, middle, everybody got it, and I'm like, should that not be a bit more what comedians are like?
Yeah,
you know. But
I'd like to do 2 shows at the Edinburgh Fringe. One that's like super lefty, like shitting all over the right, and then just the same show that covers the same topics in the same order. In the other direction.
Yeah. Just I don't know why you don't. That'd be great. I'd come and see both of them.
That'd be funny. Release it as like a double special one day.
Yeah, and then
that'd be good fun.
and then you come away going, it's the same show.
yeah, it's the exact same. But do you know what would be funnier if it wasn't 2 different hours? If it was the exact same hour but branded and marketed differently.
Oh yeah. So each day it was like left, right.
Yeah,
right.
So you do like the one poster is like me with duct tape over my mouth. And it says like cancelled comedian. But then one it's like me in a waistcoat going like like shrugging, going like fighting for your rights or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like
the exact same show.
So but it's the exact same show, and then a different crowd comes every day, and I laugh at all of them.
I think that's it. I think we're all getting too caught up in trying to get likes from our little tribe, like you said, our team. Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm gonna comment on this. I'm gonna look, and then I'm gonna screenshot it. And I'm gonna retweet and go, look what I did. Look what I did. And go, yeah, all my little clique are going, oh, well done. And you're like, do you know what? The world's fucked. It's all fucked, and we're getting more fucked by the day. Yeah. This little shitty thing that we're fighting over now ain't gonna matter, because soon, like you said, we're gonna be underwater in a bit. So let's stop all this shit and start pulling together before we wipe ourselves out. We're going to not be here, and none of this will matter because we were too busy trying to get likes from our little mates.
It's fucking mad. I deliberately hemorrhage followers sometimes.
Oh, do you?
So see if I have a particularly like in whatever direction, whether it's like a particularly like a laddie bit of crowd work goes on, and it like might be interpreted as like potentially misogynistic if you view it in the wrong way, or it might be this or it might be that. And I think if I get like an influx of followers and I'm like, oh, don't know if they are nice people,
don't know if they got it,
I'll deliberately post a poem that week just to be like, some of you can fuck off.
Yeah. Let's test this. Let's see what you're about.
And a lot of them leave because they're like, I didn't come here for poetry. I came here for misogyny. Actually.
What sexist bullshit? What's that fucking rubbish? How dare you give a shit?
I wanted to call them women in the crowd sluts. Actually, that's what I wanted to do.
Oh man, I don't know. I hope we get to a point where we figure it out. But it doesn't. At the minute, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like we're all.
No, we won't.
No, we're not going to, are we?
It's over. You just need to read him. Have you ever seen? Do you know Eddie Pepitone?
Yeah.
Oh, he's the man. He's the only. Yeah. He's mental, but he's the only one with his head screwed on. Like his tweets, where he's like, "Everything's ending. Shop at Arby's." It's so funny.
There's been a few of them. They've gone, "Yeah, run your credit cards up. No one gives a fuck."
Man.
Yeah, we're going to be fighting over cucumbers in a bit. So,
mate, I love to be fighting over cucumbers. Do you think you would do? I was talking about this in the podcast recently. Do you think the actual collapse of society would remove stress in some way?
No, because then you're having seen I can only base this on the movies I've seen, but it would be then it's really survival of the fittest. And
but then you're not getting anxiety. Do you know what I mean? You're just like actually fight or flight all the time. Do you know what I mean?
And then so you can't trust the people you're with. I mean, look at
I can't trust the people I'm with now.
What am I saying? I know, yeah, it just amplifies it.
Because I just think so much of my stress, and I think a lot of people's stress, comes from trying to fit into society or what
absolutely 100%
society expects of you. Yeah. When society collapses, I'm like, I just have to like forage for nuts and berries and kill the occasional marauder.
Do you know what? I do look for places to live when I'm out and about, and I go, what if it did collapse? I'm like looking at the sides of like the railways and things like that. I'm like, oh, there's like these arches.
Yeah, you could viewpoints. You could see people coming.
Yeah, this is up high. I'm on the viaduct,
and there's a water source down there.
Yeah. There's that. I can do that, and then there's okay. Yeah, we'll be fine. There's the supermarket there. We'll raid that till it's empty.
Yeah.
But you know what'll happen though? I'll be the first one to get killed. I'm being all thinking I'm going to be like one of the leaders. I'll be the first one to get my head caved in.
My mate, you've probably gigged with John Maher, have you?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Irish guy, fantastic.
Yeah.
He had a really funny bit, and I won't try and spoil it too much, but basically, like, if the war does escalate and, like bombs start dropping, you'll just see him on a bar spike, like, cycling towards wherever the bombs are dropping, just trying to header one of them.
Let's get this over and done with.
It's like, I don't want to survive.
The nuclear winter, where it's just wiped out and you're the only one left. Someone else said the other day, they're going, oh, what if this is you and someone else? And then you got to repopulate the planet. And you're like, yeah, but all right, the initial bit, you two having sex, that's fine. Then the kids come out, but then they're going to be you think they're going to be brother and sister?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Repopulate
the planet with idiots?
Yeah.
I've got club foot.
Yeah. You go, well, what do you think this is good? How do you think it's going to go down? I think I would just find. I think if it got to that point, I'd find all the drugs. And then just...
Oh, man.
I'd just go out swinging, just go out with just off my head. Yeah. Just walking up to the zombies going, hey.
Yeah, you're both doing the same thing with your jaw.
Yeah, you can't work out who's who. No. Martin Wilson's been bitten. No, it's off his nut on Skag. Mate, this has been great, Vittorio. Well done, man.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Cool. But how are you? So I suppose it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? You just
I'm in a pretty good place right now. My girlfriend's absolutely wonderful. It helped me out with all that stuff. And I'm really enjoying gigging. And I am, like I said, I'm just trying to create space for myself because I know I have a particular set of things going on with me, and I need to create a life for myself where I can just exist with a bit more peace than maybe I would in a normal job that I wouldn't be able to quite cope with. So I'm just trying to create that space of like not too frantic, and that's why I'm just focused on like building my own audience, and then I can just book my own tours. I'm not waiting for anyone else to say yes or no or any of that stuff. I just want to do my own thing and crack on with it. And then if I want to gig more, I can gig more. And if I want to gig less, I can gig less. And I can just look after myself. I don't have anyone and I've just signed with an agent, but I think he's aware that I'm not someone who needs pushing. Like, I'll work hard, but I know I just need to kind of monitor that myself.
I think we're with the same agent or same agency, and I'm just get on with it, and then let him catch up when he's ready.
Yeah, he'll make money at some point, mate.
Yeah, he'll get to it. Yeah. I'm just going to crack on, and then you just, whatever.
And just keep up.
Yeah. Vittorio, where can we find you online?
Instagram is at Vittorio Angelone. So is TikTok if you're 12. Twitter is that Vittorio. That's probably all the best places to find me. If you're at the Fringe, that's my main focus at the minute. 2:05 every day at the Monkey Barrel Comedy website. You can get tickets, £5 for midweek, £7 at the weekend. I'm loving this doing the hour-long shows. It's my first time doing hour-long shows.
Oh,
and
really?
It is the best fun because you can lose them so much and you have time to get them back.
You can go anywhere you like in the hour. It's a beautiful thing.
So
And it's
fun,
Monkey
man.
Barrel as well. I love that. It's such a good venue.
Yeah, man.
Big up the Monkey Barrel, massive. Well done, man.
Yeah,
I'll pop
very
along and
exciting.
see you, I think, because
I'd love
all of
that,
my stuff's not till the evening. So
Great.
yeah,
Great. I'd
I'll
love
come
to
and see you. Vittorio, thanks, man. Been a pleasure.
No, thank you for having me. I really fucking appreciate it.
Mate, nice one. Thanks, mate.
Thank you. Cheers. No worries.